The next step in our driver education journey is chapter number 4, starting, steering, and stopping the vehicle. As usual, we have our knowledge objectives. By the end of chapter number 4, students will be able to demonstrate the proper sequence for starting an engine, describe proper hand position on the steering wheel, explain effective steering techniques, describe proper foot position for optimal accelerator and brake pedal control, describe the proper sequence for putting the vehicle in motion, identify the proper technique for slowing and braking, describe proper procedures for safe backing, and explain the proper procedure for stopping and securing a vehicle. And then we have 3 attitude objectives for chapter number 4. By the end of this chapter, students will accept that the seat, mirrors, safety devices, and other equipment must be adjusted as appropriate prior to moving a motor vehicle. Understanding the relationship between visual performance, steering, and braking determine the safe speed. The habits, good or bad, that one develops during routine driving are those that will be applied instinctively. So first, let's start with starting the engine. Before starting the engine, the following steps should be taken. Always place your foot on the brake pedal before starting the engine. Then check to ensure the parking brake is set. Then check to ensure the gear selector lever is in park. Then turn the key clockwise to start the engine. Note that instead of key turn starting, some modern vehicles feature a push to start button. Check your owner's manual for specific instructions on starting your particular vehicle. But as soon as the engine starts, release the key or the button. Failure to release the ignition switch can damage the starter system. Then let the engine idle for at least 15 to 20 seconds before you start driving. Do not race the engine by pressing hard on the accelerator. Then check to make sure all gauges are working and that all indicate normal functioning of vehicle systems. If the vehicle is not equipped with daytime running lights known as DRLs, turn on the low beam headlights. Then drive at a moderate speed for the first few blocks to allow the engine and fluids to warm up to operating temperatures. Here's a quick question that we will answer. What is the importance of pressing the brake before starting the engine? If the vehicle is in gear, pressing the brake will hold the vehicle in place and keep it from moving forward or backwards. Most vehicles have safety devices to prevent this from happening. Putting your foot on the brake adds another way to reduce potential risk should something malfunction. The next question we will cover: what are the 3 steering techniques available to drivers? Number 1 is hand-to-hand steering. Number 2, hand-over-hand steering. And number 3, one-hand steering. The following slides, we will cover each type of steering. First, we have hand-to-hand steering. When turning through a slight curve using hand-to-hand steering, sometimes referred to as push-pull or feed steering, both hands will typically retain their original grip on the wheel, requiring only slight finger or wrist movements to maintain the path of travel. While one hand pushes up or pulls down, the opposite hand slides up or down along the wheel to provide additional steering input to stabilize your steering. Both hands are always in contact with the steering wheel. Then we have hand-over-hand steering. To do this, you want to grasp the steering wheel with your right hand between the 2 and 3 o'clock position and your left hand between the 9 and 10 o'clock position. Use one hand to push the steering wheel up and over the other hand past the 12 o'clock position, then down toward the 9 or 3 o'clock position. Your bottom hand releases the steering wheel, passing across your forearm to grip the wheel on the far side. The same hand, which is now on top, then pulls the wheel up and over past the 12 o'clock position and then back down. Then we have one-hand steering. One-handed steering is not recommended. Steering with one hand should be used only when backing up in a straight line or only briefly when adjusting your dashboard controls. So we have steering while backing. Backing and steering with one hand requires drivers to shift their hip and seat position so they can see past the head restraint. To improve balance, drivers can place their right arm over the back of the front passenger seat. Grip the steering wheel at the 12 o'clock position with your left hand and move the wheel left or right in the direction you want the rear of your vehicle to go. Make visual checks to the front when you start to back up, and continue to do so as you back up to ensure that the front of the vehicle is not swinging out of line or about to strike anything else. Next up, we have steering errors. First, we have improper steering. Research shows that a substantial percentage of crashes involving 16-year-old drivers results from failure to make a quick turn or from improper evasive steering. Whether performed at a low or high speed, a quick turn results in a shift of weight or center of mass from one side of the vehicle to the other. Speed and steering input have a direct influence on the weight transfer to the front corner of the vehicle opposite the direction of the turn. An increase in weight to the front is accompanied by a reduction in the weight to the rear, particularly on the side in the direction of the turn. Then we have sudden steering input. If an error has been committed and you are approaching another object at a high rate of speed, the quickness of steering input needed to make a 10 to 12 foot lane change increases. Sudden steering input coupled with a high speed, unless dampened by a smooth, rapid countersteer, can generate enough weight transfer to overcome the tire's traction and result in a skid. Then we have following an intended path. To steer a vehicle smoothly and precisely, you need a visual target to use as a reference point. Beginning drivers frequently use the middle of the hood, the edge of the road, the center line, or the fenders to steer by, but such a low aim requires constant adjustments to the steering wheel to maintain lane position. Since we tend to steer where we look, the best approach is to visualize an imaginary line down the middle of your intended path of travel about 12 to 15 seconds, or 1 to 1.5 blocks in the city, or 20 to 30 seconds on the open road. Directing your visual search back and forth along the center of your travel path provides the best point of reference. Then we have passing stationary objects. When you pass close to objects on your right side, such as parked vehicles or posts, look past the object, but glance quickly at your right front fender to judge the distance. When space is limited on both sides, position the vehicle closer to the object on the left side, where operating space is easier to judge. Then we have steering corrections. Steering corrections must be smooth and made as soon as the vehicle starts to wander from the planned path of travel. New drivers frequently wait too long to make corrections, allowing the vehicle to wander from one side of the lane to the other. When making a correction too late, the driver frequently turns the steering wheel too far, causing the vehicle to move back toward the opposite side of the lane, requiring a constant sequence of countersteers. Learning to search 20 to 30 seconds ahead, identifying a target area along the intended path of travel, and making slight, timely steering corrections will help reduce the tendency to wander within the lane. Crosswinds, uneven road surfaces, steering wheel play, and road slope also can cause a vehicle to wander within or between lanes, but slight steering adjustments can overcome such problems. Then we have road feel. Assuming you are gripping the steering wheel firmly with your fingers and the tires are properly inflated, you should experience a certain level of road feel through the steering wheel. This feedback can tell you if the road surface is changed or if your vehicle is operating properly. For instance, a vibration in the steering wheel could indicate a problem with wheel alignment or tire balance, or it could just be an indication of a rough road. Then we have power steering. Most modern vehicles feature power steering, which makes it much easier to turn the steering wheel, especially when maneuvering in tight spaces or trying to parallel park. The first time you drive any vehicle, drive with extra care until you become familiar with the steering response. Otherwise, you might not steer enough or you might steer too much. You also should be aware of the changes in steering systems in recent years that reduce the amount of steering needed to change your direction of travel. When you change from a vehicle with power steering to one with manual steering, you must adjust to the additional effort needed to steer. Now we have positioning your foot to operate accelerator and brake pedals. So first, using the right foot. Most drivers brake with the right foot, which ensures that pressure is completely off the accelerator when braking. To operate the accelerator and brake pedal smoothly, rest the heel of your right foot on the floor, centered in front of the brake pedal. This position allows you to pivot easily between the accelerator and the brake and offers better braking control. Then we have the placement of your left foot. Place the heel of your left foot on the floor to the left of the brake pedal. Resting on this dead pedal, which is a small flat footrest on the left front wheel housing in many cars, keeps your foot stationary. Then we have using both feet. It is recommended that new drivers use only their right foot to operate both the accelerator and the brake pedals. Some drivers prefer to use the left foot for braking and the right foot for accelerating in vehicles with automatic transmissions. If you do use your left foot to brake, never drive with your left foot poised over the brake pedal except while trail braking. When you use your left foot for braking, your right foot must come off the accelerator as your left foot pivots to the brake pedal. Next we have before shifting gears. Always make sure the parking brake is set and step firmly on the brake pedal before moving the gear selector lever to drive or to reverse. After shifting, check to make sure the parking brake is completely released before you release the brake pedal. Driving with the parking brake partially on can damage the brakes. Then we have accelerating. The ability to control speed depends upon good accelerator technique. Resting the right side of the foot against the console or transmission tunnel makes it much easier to control the accelerator to attain and maintain a desired speed. However, no two vehicles accelerate exactly alike, so drivers must develop a sensitivity for each vehicle they drive. There are 4 levels of acceleration. Number 1 is idling acceleration, where simply releasing pressure from the brake pedal can result in slow forward movement on vehicles equipped with an automatic transmission. Keeping the accelerator covered with the right foot can help provide a smooth transition from brake release to progressive acceleration. 2 is light acceleration, the purpose of which is to maintain slow forward motion or allowing speed to increase gradually with minimum weight shift. 3 is progressive acceleration, with firm pressure on the accelerator to increase your speed. And number 4 is thrust acceleration, a firm push or thrust of the accelerator for increased acceleration to shift more weight to the rear wheels for traction or for passing in higher speed traffic. Now we have stopping smoothly. Braking a vehicle to a stop is a relatively simple task. However, like many actions, braking requires practice if it is to be performed smoothly and precisely. The most difficult task is learning when and how much pressure to apply to bring the vehicle to a smooth, controlled stop at the desired point. What you need to know is practice is key. From a speed of 20 to 30 miles per hour, safely practice controlled braking in an area free of children and other pedestrians and with few vehicles around. Select a spot ahead of you where you want to stop, such as a shadow or the edge of a driveway. You may overshoot or stop short of the target the first few times, but practice will help you judge the distance and amount of brake pressure that you need to stop at that desired point. As you experience success, gradually increase your speed and continue practicing when you have an opportunity to do so safely. Then we have effective braking. The key to effective braking is to stabilize the foot and control brake pressure with the ankle and toe rather than with the larger, less precise thigh muscles. Place your heel on the floor in front of the brake pedal so the area forward of the ball of the foot is on the pedal. This position will enable you to use your toes for fine pedal pressure adjustments and makes it easy to pivot your foot smoothly between the brake and the accelerator. Next, we have our 4 levels of deceleration. First is releasing the accelerator stops the vehicle's forward propulsion. Although the vehicle will continue moving forward, it will be coasting forward rather than being controlled by the engine. This transition from acceleration to deceleration tends to be more noticeable in vehicles with manual transmissions. 2 would be controlled or squeeze braking. This is done with sufficient pressure to slow the vehicle while avoiding abrupt weight transfer that could lead to traction loss by the front or rear wheels. 3 is threshold braking. This is the application of brake pressure to a point just short of locking up the brakes. Resulting in maximum braking capability, This procedure tends to be used during emergency situations where the driver is responding to an unanticipated situation. Too much pressure on the brake pedal can cause brake lockup on vehicles not equipped with anti-lock braking systems. If this occurs, reducing brake pressure slightly will help the driver regain steering control. Number 4 is trail braking or squeeze-off braking. This is used to smoothly and gradually reduce brake pedal pressure at the end of a braking maneuver. This helps to avoid abrupt weight transfer when turning at an intersection or into a curve. This technique is often used in combination with or at the end of controlled or threshold braking. Then we have our stopping time. Total stopping time consists of perception, reaction, and braking distance. Perception of distance is the most difficult to estimate. Assuming the driver is not distracted and is paying reasonable attention to task, the average driver will generally take 1/2 to 3/4 of a second to recognize that something is wrong and requires a response. Executing the necessary response takes another 1/2 to 3/4 of a second, which is identified as your reaction time. Both perception and reaction time estimates are based on the assumption that the driver is in good physical health, has had sufficient sleep, is not impaired by alcohol or other drugs, and is attentive to driving. Next up, we have road friction or grip. When pressure is applied to the brake pedal, the rotation of the wheels is slowed. This slowing causes increased friction or grip between the tires and the road surface. Since road surface conditions affect this friction, any substance on the road surface such as water, gravel, oil, ice, or snow will reduce the tire's gripping efficiency and result in longer stopping distances. To minimize stopping distances and maintain vehicle balance, always strive to brake in a straight line. This helps maximize the tire's contact patches, resulting in the greatest possible traction during braking. Sudden stops without an anti-lock braking system. Brake pressure control is the key to maintaining steering control when making a sudden stop in a vehicle that is not equipped with ABS. Maximum braking occurs just before the wheels stop rotating and start to slide. If any wheel locks and starts to slide, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to control the vehicle's direction. Now let's cover power brakes and signaling before braking. Most vehicles are equipped with power brakes. Power assist brakes do not stop a vehicle more quickly, but they do substantially reduce the amount of pressure needed to brake or to stop. Even though power brakes reduce the pressure needed for braking, they work even if the engine stops or the power assist unit fails. If the system should fail, you will have to apply more pressure on the brakes to stop the vehicle. Then we have changing vehicles. Be careful when changing from one vehicle to another. Braking sensitivity can vary among vehicles. You may lengthen the stopping distance by applying too little pressure. Then we have signaling a stop. Nearly 30% of all reported collisions are rear-end crashes. To reduce the chance of being struck from behind, always check to the rear and tap the brake pedal several times before actually slowing to the vehicle to alert any following drivers of your intentions. Then we have hand signals. You also can indicate your intentions to stop by giving a hand signal. To give a hand signal, hold the steering wheel with your right hand and extend your left arm out the window and down with the palm facing to the rear. Hand signals provide an additional safety measure when there is an increased chance of being struck from behind, such as when you are in line of moving traffic. Now let's cover backing. When backing a vehicle, take your time and always back up slowly. Check traffic conditions in all directions and check all blind areas carefully. It's important to move the vehicle slowly and be prepared to stop quickly. To reduce risk, follow these steps. Before entering the vehicle, check to make sure the path to the rear and to the sides is completely clear. Children and objects are often difficult to see from the driver's seat. Keep your foot firmly on the brake pedal while shifting to reverse. Since drivers cannot see objects close to the rear or sides when looking out the window, they will have to use both front and rear windows and inside and outside mirrors. Then back up slowly. A vehicle is much harder to control and to stop when backing up. When moving backward, the rear of the vehicle turns in the direction the driver turns the steering wheel. If you become confused or disoriented while backing up, stop and begin again. Check traffic conditions to make sure there is enough time to complete the backing maneuver. Avoid backing into a busy street, highway, or pedestrian walkway. When the maneuver is complete, bring the vehicle to a full stop before shifting into a forward gear or into park. When backing, always look in the direction the vehicle is moving and turn the steering wheel in the direction you want the rear of your vehicle to go. And finally, for chapter number 4, we have stopping and securing the vehicle. It is very important that drivers learn and use the following sequence for stopping and securing a vehicle. Number 1, come to a complete stop with the wheels turned toward or away from the roadway as appropriate. Number 2, keep your foot on the brake pedal and set the parking brake. Number 3, shift the gear selector lever to the parked position. Number 4, turn off all accessories and lights. Number 5, make sure all windows are closed. Number 6, turn off the ignition and remove the key. Number 7, unfasten your seatbelts. Number 8, check mirrors and over your shoulder for traffic. Number 9, exit the vehicle with your keys in your hand. And most importantly, number 10, lock all your doors.